Today we'll be breaking down FNCS Game 2 and 3, both won by Baka and Pars, the only team in the world to win back-to-back games in FNCS this season. There's a ton we can learn here, so let's get into it. All right, game number 2 winner. Let's see who won game number 2. So we saw Booga won game number 1, right? Now we got to kind of dig through here. There's probably a better way to do this, but I'm just kind of lazy, so we're going to do it like this. We're just going to go hunt around and see who won game number 2. Maybe it was one of these guys that placed really low. I kind of got to doubt it, but here we go. So Baka Pars actually won game 2 and game 3. So let's see it. Both 7 kill wins. I mean, nuts, absolutely nuts. Also, I don't know what the points would have been, but if they had the same performance they had on day 1, on day number 2, I gotta say that they would have won. I gotta imagine that they would have won or gotten really close. Getting 2 wins. I mean, we saw Acorn and Cold. I'm pretty sure they won day number 2 because they had 2 wins. Of course, they had other great games, just like Baka and Pars had. But like, it was in the most important day number 2. Winning 2 games in day number 1 is great, but I don't know the points for sure. But I feel like it's got to be something crazy, like the 2 wins that they got on day 1 is 1 win on day number 2 or something like that. Like, I'm not exactly sure how all that works, but I gotta dig deeper into the points. Either way, hopping on to Baka Pars here. Right, going into their spot, they land in the middle of the map here. They land at this little split right here. They got like the little green water area. They got this building over here, and it's a really good spot. I've seen a lot of their games, and they're able to just kind of fly in between these with the skulls they have, with the pad. They can fizz pad all the way back up to the hill. But here's the thing. I need to skip back just a quick second here. It looks like they maybe were contested. No, maybe so. Let's see. No. So, okay, maybe this is a strategy that they've done just off of this. I'm not really sure because I'm pretty sure that there's more loot up here, but I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what's going on. Maybe this is the strategy they do. We're going to find it out as we go through this game and the next game. But either way, it's still not a bad idea. If they could do this, it's just a little unsafe, I would say, because you never know who could lurk into this and sit behind a certain wall, or who could just simply land here without them seeing. Obviously, they're gonna go for it in the next few minutes here. I'll skip through this part since we just wanted to see where exactly they were landing. But overall, it is very smart whenever you're doing a loot route, whenever you're figuring out where you're landing, to work your way into like the final position, right? So instead of sending one person here and one person there and meeting in the middle, like just send both there, work your way up, get your medal last, and then go zone. Right? Everyone's got certain loot routes, and it's very important to work your way towards something. Like, you would never see Clix and Vino loot from the north to the south and then have to run back up. It wouldn't make sense. So they're being smart with it. They obviously have something planned, and they go take it pretty quick, right? Within a couple minutes. I mean, so far they've got. I mean, let's just take a look at this loot here. Like, imagine if we were to have Skittles and Trashy, or I guess Trashy Threats, come over and try to lurk on them. Let's just see what can we compare here. So we got DMR, Combat, Big Pot, right? Decent. DMR, Gatekeeper, right? Same kind of thing over here. Decent loadouts. Everyone's got pretty equal loot. We got Agers on some decent loot. Nothing crazy, right? Rise obviously is pretty split on his decent loot. So like, everyone's got something, but not enough to really be annoying to these guys. So they are quick enough on the timing here. Like, yes, a team could be in here with they're probably the same loot they have, maybe a little bit less, but really, like, it's unlikely. On top of all this, I feel like you guys as an audience have heard this before, but it's very important to have good neighbors in competitive Fortnite. And what I mean by that is it's definitely very beneficial for Baka and Pars to have Threats and Trashy, obviously 2 veteran players, and Cooper and Kanata, another set of 2 veteran players. Are they even in this game? They not load in? Oh no, they are. Wait, yeah, they are. It's good to have that around you, right? So imagine if it was Timmy number 1, Timmy number 2, and Joe 1 and Joe 2, right? And then they don't know what they're doing in the game, so then they die a surge, and then they think they have to do some weird play. Like, everyone here is very smart. Everyone here is very smart, meaning that they probably won't get lurked on by any of these teams. On top of all this, you've got kind of a messy area down here with Paco and for Freak Tekka. It looks like they were conned. But you would love, for the same thing to be here. You'd love for like Booga and Aviv to be down here or whatever, right? Like some nice team that, isn't going to be an absolute psychopath and lurk in your thing 1 out of 12 games or 3 out of 12 games. Like, You won't really see that from Cooper, Kanata, or Trashy Threats. They probably won't mess with them. And so it allows them to do a route like this, right? It actually does allow them to be able to be like split and work their way up into the better part of loot. Either way. So good neighbors is important. Now they're doing their loot route. They got their farm route. I mean, look at their loot. At this point in the game, you know, we could go to Bugha and Clicks, or Bugha and Aviv, sorry. Bugha and Aviv, who are uncontested at Classy Courts. They have pretty good loot. We just watched them in their game 1. But nothing crazy, right? We could go around the map here. Just kind of bounce around. We got Alex and Worthy here. Mid-tier loot. Nothing crazy. Nothing like to talk about. Trashy and Threats at a great spot. Pretty solid loot. Nothing crazy. You know, mats are pretty mid, like 76, 66. And then you've got Baka and Pars with cap mats. At this point in the game, they're very close to cap, or going to be cap in the next minute or so, with pretty solid loot, great heals, mobility, everything they would want. I mean, this spot is hands down one of the most underrated spots on the map for sure. And they get forecast, which is obviously great, right? So they're going to be able to see zone. Pars decides to go up above Alex and Worthy, have the highest vantage point, and Baka kind of sits here. This is what I normally do, because obviously this entire season I landed at Restored. So this is, if we ever went for forecast and opens, we'd play just like this. We would go up. I don't know about this high, but because you're already above this team, there's really no point of being that much higher. Maybe they're trying to match the team that maybe goes in this hill, but either way, I don't know what they're doing. This is a little bit overkill. But you definitely want to send one up here to build a base like this, build a tower, do what you're doing, and then kind of put one down here and build like this. This is pretty smart. You kind of cut off a lot of area. You have a pretty good pinch line. And again, because they're working their way from their spot, they know that nobody's over here, so they can actually he can just ramp this off, right? Versus like, you know, a different flip side from me from Restored. My ramp kind of has to look like it's going this way, or kind of, you know, kind of towards Baka and Pars, ramping off Kanata and Cooper to my left. So a little different, but still does the same thing. So now forecast about to spawn. Also, I will mention this, it's a very small detail, but cones in your tower is always going to be better than stairs. I don't know, I mean, I'm not going to say I invented the cones in the thing, but I started doing it a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure that they either learned it themselves or watched it from me. So cones in the towers are just definitely more handy. I feel like we go around a lot of these surge bases. There's not as many of them anymore, but we got cones and stairs here. I mean, yeah, there's really not many surge bases around anymore with this meta change that was put into place, but cones are just far better, right? You can just go down as fast as possible, go up as fast as possible. Very nice. So they just switch positions. They switch positions for mats, right? So he builds this big tower, uses a lot of mats, and then Baka farms all his mats, says, hey, I'm cap mats, let me just go up, switch positions, boom, done. Now he's gonna go down here and farm and get as many mats as fast as possible, knowing the exact efficient farm route. Throws a loot back, puts the key card in, cap mats, everything they would want, and they can see zone, and they're already dead center zone. Now the only thing they need to focus on is Storm Surge, right? This is actually pretty smart to do something like this, to give themselves a bit more protection on the wood layers, right? Now they have a little bit more people to shoot through. Not a bad idea, for sure. Definitely interesting that we're seeing Pars fish here. I'm not gonna lie. This is kind of nuts. I'm not gonna lie. This is a little psycho. Because the position that they're in, they have great loot. Why are we fishing? I'm really... maybe he knows something I don't know. Maybe this is the reason why he won this game. But this is insane. This is insane to do, because you've got so many teams that are gonna need Storm Surge that don't have tags yet. You know, I would assume that these guys that don't have a ton of tags, right? And then you're over here fishing on the lowest ground possible. You know, someone could easily lurk up on this, see there's a guy fishing there, take a crash pad on your head. Your teammate can't get to you that fast. You can't really pad away. You could break the pad. The players could break the pad. This doesn't really make sense, but we're gonna see. Maybe there's some fishing tech that we're not sure about. But it does seem like he knows where the next zone is. I don't want to say it because obviously I don't know it yet, but it seems like it's probably somewhere over here. If he's going over there to run around. Yeah. Well, they just pulled center, so that's perfect. Ah, okay. Maybe he was going down there to fish to get extra heals. I don't know. I just don't feel like that's really that smart to do at the end of the day. Like, you're gonna get 3 shield fish, 2 shield fish. Like, I guess. I mean, I don't know. You get extra heals from this. They've got a fizz here that they left. I mean, they took, it looks like they took all the heals up into their base, but like, right, like you already got your extra heals. They've already got their big pot fizz, whatever, from the forecast guy, and they still have great heals. All right, they got their big pots there for spare. I don't know. Definitely weird to see them fish, but if it works, it works. I mean, they won this game. I'm gonna skip here though, because there's really no point in watching them tag. They just pull zones. They do have forecast, so we're gonna see them play. Again, I talked about this. We're gonna see them play very well. I talked about this in the last video, but winner's perspective of any game is gonna look way different than a 2nd place, 3rd place, 5th place, 10th place perspective, and all those are still really great performances. You know, a 10 kill 10th is insane, right? That's like probably better than somebody who places in the top 2, top 3. So winner's perspective is always going to be like, they got forecast, they got a lucky refresh, they got max mats, but it is really interesting still to see, like, if you do get that, how can you turn it into this game? So if we do get forecast, how could we turn this into a win in the biggest lobby, right? Most important stage, winning a game is what you want to do. So they obviously have skulls because they land on skulls, right? They land very close to them. And they know where zone's going to go. They wait for his timing. They see this team coming in here. So they kind of see that there's a team. Like, they know where zone is, right? They know what's over here. And they know their best path is probably this direction, right? Like, I don't see why they'd go to the POI. And I don't see why they'd swing left. It's going to be, just to white line it. And so they see that Acorn and Cold were down here getting tagged right here, right? So they go before they get too deep. On top of this, like, other teams started to pinch them. I think they maybe stopped here. I have to go back and watch, but I really don't care to. Either way, they got stopped, and so they used that as the perfect timing before they got too deep. Because most definitely, if they let them get too far in, like if Acorn and Cold were able to get to here, or even here would be worse, right? Like anywhere in this little area, it would be very hard for them to rotate because now they have to worry about this certain team. But they just, they timing it. They go at the right timing. They get into position. And of course, I don't think Acorn and Cold know where zone is, but I could be wrong. Maybe they do, because they're going this direction. But I mean, not a lot of teams are going to know that it's going to be over here. So they're going to pick the best position possible. And they obviously have great surge, and they're going to go for the least amount of resources used, right? So they use a little bit of wood. They're going to sit in the bush and chill out. They're not going to go for this, even though this is probably in zone. They could build a base here, but it's a lot of mats to waste at this point in the game. They hear Acorn and Cold lurking, so like, hey, no, we ain't playing around. We do not want anything bad to happen. We are in a great spot here, as they are. And they pulled zone. Now, I truly think that the best play was to go here. I really think that they should have gone here, just because it's like, they were earlier, they were first. They saw Acorn and Cold back here, right? Like, I mean, hindsight, you can look at it and be like, yeah, like, not even really hindsight. Like, you don't ever really want to position yourself in like the lowest layer possible when you have the chance to be on a hill, right? Even if they were to just not take the top here for some wild reason, but ramp up, I would have much rather have them done that than sit on this lowest layer possible. I mean, look at the angles they have. They really can't see anybody. All these teams that are over here are full LOSing them because of this little hill. Versus Acorn and Cold, you know, even though they didn't build a big base, they were able to get up there and have the same perspective that these guys have on this team, but you know, now they can turn around and hit all these guys back here. So, I don't know. They already have good surge. You know, it's not like the biggest deal, but 230 above isn't going to be, this isn't going to last you much in the next zone. I mean, this is going to be pretty minimal. So now you're seeing them already expand and make space, right? Like they could have just done this before on the hill. So, I mean, I would confidently like to say that they probably wish they went on the hill. But hey, you know what? At the end of the day, they have so many mats. At this point, they're still very stacked. It doesn't even matter. It's such a minor detail that they had to spend, you know, extra 50 builds. And they're getting tags. It's not a big deal. And they have forecasts, so they know where it goes. Now, we don't know where it goes, obviously, yet. But it'll be interesting to see what they'll do. And so this is something that, like, for you guys watching, this is something that I do pretty often if I'm trying to understand what teams do on a certain, you know, with certain aspects of the game. Okay, what would Peterbot and Poyo do if they had forecast? Would they go early? Like, we don't know where it pulls. Maybe it pulls through them, right? If it pulls through them, that's kind of boring because it doesn't really help us with anything. Because obviously, if it pulls, there's no question you're just going to sit there and wait, right? But if it pulls far here, like if this zone goes max here, you know, is the play from Baka and Pars to wait? Is it to go early? Is it to go late? Like, we're going to see, right? And then you can take that answer and apply it to your game. So let's say I'm in this exact same scenario, but in a cash cup opens, right? And I got forecast and I see it's about to pull max. Okay, maybe I don't go, maybe I do go. You know, of course, again, this cash cup opens, the lobby, the difficulty of the lobby is way different than this. So there's obviously way more players on this side of zone than there is dead side. Like in a cash cup, there's always going to be people over here. Either way, I don't gotta explain that. So anyways, you can see kind of how you can apply like what if scenarios, like what would Baka Pars do here, and then what would you do? So I gotta imagine if they haven't gone already, like at least this early, like I probably, if I had forecast here, I probably would have gone by now. Like you just pre-fire and go. Especially if you like hear this team look in this other direction. Like this is your one threat point if it pulls this direction, right? If it pulls north, Acorn and Cold are the one team that can really mess you up. And maybe visuals, but like that's they're not really going to be paying attention like that. So I gotta imagine they're probably going to pull zone here. Yeah, they do, right? Because yeah, like I said, I think that if it did go far, they would have already left. You know, 2 seconds before this, or maybe even earlier than that. So now we get to see okay, where's the next pull? Because you can't pull it here. Well, you could, but it'd be, you know, close. But if I was to answer it myself, I would say that even if I did pull a zone in this situation, right, I would probably not go, like, even no matter where the zone pulls, I wouldn't go there. You know, if it's on me, it's cool. If it's over here, you know, very close to me, I still wouldn't move. I would just stay here. You've already expended your mats. You're already in a decent position, and there's no point in risking getting sprayed, griefed, keyed, whatever, right? Like, just play your game and stay where you are. Because in this meta with Crashpad Fizz, no matter where it goes, they get to go for free. So this is probably one of the least useful zones in these type of stacked lobbies for forecast, right? This next zone though, they can now go front side of the, you know, the zone, or they can go to a dead side of the zone and try to get to a, you know, something less contested. Because they're going to be able to see where the first moving zone pulls to, which is huge, right? That's a big point. But again, can't forget, Crash Pad and Fizz is still a thing, and they can just sling across the zone no matter where it goes. So it really does not matter where any of these teams position themselves. If they have good utility like this, decent mats, and they're on an elevated layer, they can go wherever they want. 47 above, so now they're stressing for Surge. And I think that is literally because they weren't in a great spot to begin with. Zone pulls all the way over here. Yeah, to the trains. I don't know. Acorn and Cold looks like maybe they pushed a team. I don't know why they switched positions, but I do want to see their Surge. 200 above. So you can kind of look at it like that. Like, I mean, if you were Baka Pars and you really wanted to see what the actual difference between, you could go back and count the Surge that they got versus the Surge that Acorn got and be like, oh, wow, okay, if we went up there, we would have got that, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell Acorn with 200 Surge, Baka Pars with 5 Surge above. You can definitely tell that they definitely made the wrong call here to go low. Anyways, zone pulls max, and they just crash pad and use their skulls. Textbook Fortnite doesn't really get much better than that. It's not too hard. Keep it simple. I think it's really interesting too that they build a ton of metal here. I mean, like they're one of the first teams, so it makes a lot of sense. And on top of all of that, they are really stacked. Like they don't need anything. They can see where the next zone goes. I'm gonna see something real quick. I wanna try this. So we got I just want to see if maybe there's something I'm missing with building really hard mats early on, or maybe it's just a luck thing for a lot of these teams to be doing it. But maybe it's a mat thing. So we got Taste and Yamzo, a great team, very smart team, 88, 67. Again, it probably could be a mix of it just was the way it was. But you got Agers and Rise more stacked than Tayson and Metal, right? You got Bakapars more stacked than Tayson and Metal. Trashy Threats and a little bit of Brick, obviously less stacked than Tayson, so less stacked than Bakapars, right? Let's see Peterbot Poyo. More stacked, right? So you can kind of add that together and be like, oh, okay, well, if you're more stacked, you should build in Metal, right? And for the most part, that's probably pretty true because, again, like I mentioned earlier, you're not going to want to be landing early and also getting sprayed by the lobby and ruining your game because you're trying to greed and save an extra bit of metal. Because these guys all could build in Brick, but we know Brick is still breakable quickly, and it's still sprayable, and you can still see yourself through it. And there's a lot. I mean, it's not the strongest material. Obviously, I don't have to explain that, but yeah, I mean, we can look at Cooper Kanata. They're pretty stacked, and they're also building in the metal. A little bit of wood just from mixed mats when they're placing, but no big deal. We got Kwani building in metal, 80 and 1,000. So, yeah, a lot of stacked teams. A lot of pretty shambles teams. We can go to Pink and Marrow, building in wood and brick. All right, so there's your kind of your answer if you guys were looking for that. I really don't know if you guys were, but hey, metal if you can. You're stacked. Don't grief yourself. Case in point. All right, next zone pulls towards restored, so they actually get front side pull because they know where the zone's going to be, so they're not going to overcomplicate and go, to where pump is or to where this team is. They know where the zone is. This is obviously perfect positioning. On top of all that, to add to the point of building metal, I mean, it would make a lot of sense if you knew where zone was and you knew you were going to be in the zone for the next 3 minutes because you pulled back to build the metal. Clearly, that does make a ton of sense. So I think it was more so that they were stacked, but also that they knew where they were, they knew where zone was, so they're going to sit there and build it. But now they need to focus to rotate and kind of worry a little bit about surge. They got 28 above. The good thing though is when you are crash padding, you can get a lot of opportunity like this. Like they crash pad right now, they can hit Acorn, Kwani, Paco, right? So I'd imagine that the surge they need, it's probably 50 damage, 100 damage max. 100 damage is pretty crazy to say. It's probably 50, 60 damage. Is probably going to be off a pump shot here. And they have double, or no, just one gatekeeper. He does not go for it, but he does go on a high layer here. And now they're below surge. But they're elevated. So they're below surge, they're elevated, which is where you'd want to be if you have the mats they have. Plus, if you need surge, like you're going to want to be higher up. So you can shoot people like Paco, shoot people like Braids coming in. All right, so they're just getting by. It's not looking pretty, but they're getting by. Get whatever you can get here. We need like 5 damage, 10 damage. That's what they're probably saying. Got it. Oh, maybe go for that kill. They opt to not go for it. There's Nitro and Sprint. Now they're looking at height because they have the mats they have. They're gonna look at it. They see it's connected, and just a glance, right? You're not gonna go for it at this exact moment. You're just getting information. You're seeing that it's up by 2 things. You're just getting something. That's what you want to do. Get some type of information. They don't get that refresh. So yeah, they got the kill off of it, looks like, right? Yeah. So again, now they're still pretty stacked, 70 and 40, and they're gonna keep looking at it. Again, the height team is, for the most part, always gonna be less stacked than you. Especially if you're like, if you just got, if you have 1,000 mats, you could assume height's gonna have way less than 1,000 mats. Because obviously you can't really get a refresh with mats from this layer, like from where they are, right? And clicks haven't been able to get a refresh for a while. This is all wasted mats, or used mats to try to hold height. But let's see what they do here. So they win this game against one of the best height teams on the region, which is surprising because you would think that this would be, not the case, right? Clicks and Vino are very smart. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's probably the easiest height take of all time. Maybe they don't take it right now. They probably don't with the mats that they still have left, but let's just see. All right, so Bakapar is looking up at it, chopping out Vino. Clicks manages to stay up. No, they've dropped down together. And now they go back in zone here, kind of storm flank it a bit. And then as they're going up, the same timing they're going up, on the same timing, that is insane. That is the definition of winner's POV. I'm telling you right now, that is the definition of winner's POV. I'm going to watch that back just really quickly. So at the same timing that they decided to go up, and I had no idea that Cooper and Kanata were going to go up the same exact timing as them. They end up being the right, they end up having the right second where they actually go up after after Cooper and Kanata go up. So if that ever happens, anytime you're on height, if you see a team fighting for height, you go down, you look up, you take height. It's a guarantee, especially in a Grands lobby when height already has less mats. Like Clicks and Vino, we've seen they have 30, 40 builds, right? We'll watch from Clicks' perspective here. So we got Kanata and Cooper. Looks like they went for a crash pad play. Let me just go back and see Cooper and Kanata's perspective, right? So because Baka and Pars chopped Clicks out, then it allowed Kanata and Cooper to go for height. And Kanata and Cooper went for height only because they got this refresh, which makes sense. Actually, did they get the mats for it? Maybe not. Oh, yeah, they did. So now they're like, hey, yo, we got a lot of mats. You want to send it? Yeah, let's crash it up on height. Because they saw that, obviously they looked up and they saw that how close of a layer that they were on, right? Which, again, all this only happens because Baka and Pars just chopped them out. And Baka and Pars think that they're going to take height for free because they also have a lot of mats. So anyways, going forward, Kanata and them crash bed up. Now Clicks and Vino are fighting Cooper and Kanata, which obviously is a good team. So now they have to deal with that. And then the exact same timing of Baka and Pars going up. And Cooper and Kanata being weak. Like Clicks and Vino are winning this fight. They've won the fight. So now Cooper and Kanata have to drop down. It's pretty nuts. On top of all this, like if it was a fraction of a second different, where even if both teams came up at the same time, there could be a really big chance of Cooper and Kanata colliding with Baka and Pars, and then Clicks and Vino just winning it simply because they are already on height, right? But because of that little difference in timing, Cooper and Kanata fought them, took damage, and in my opinion, because they took that damage, Baka and Pars got no punishment for coming up, which is unusual because if you ever go for height, right? If you ever build fighting somebody on height and you drop down, it's because you probably got hit weak. It's because, this, that, right? So the timing here, right? They go up, boom, he gets hit weak. Cooper goes up, he gets hit weak, right? And now Kanata's trying to drop down, and obviously he sees this other team's here. Like he knows that there's another team going for it, so he's probably even more, confident to just give it up because this, at this point, if it's 3 teams going and they all 3 go at the same time for 20 seconds, now you got Acorn, you got Aviv, you got whoever else is wanting to be second height, Peterbot winning the game. So, but either way, what I wanted to say was it's crazy the timing though, the millisecond timing, because if there was the second where they both came up the same time, there's a big chance that, like I said, Clicks and Vino could have just won without doing any damage, and you would have had Cooper and Kanata beefing with Baka and Pars and damaging each other. But because of that, and because that didn't happen, you had Kanata dropping down willingly without doing damage to Baka and Pars. Like they lost nothing. Baka and Pars went up for 0.2 seconds, saw that it was contested, and lost literally nothing. And now you got to imagine that they're gonna know that and look up for it, and they do. And again, now they're still really stacked. They know, like this is like I said, if this didn't happen, like let's just say whatever we talked about didn't happen, but you see a team get griefed on height, like any different scenario, you're going to go for it. This is a guarantee they're going to go for it again. So they heal up. Yep, pop your fizz and say, hey, look, sorry, bud, but we got 45 and 10 builds, and we know you have 6 and 7. We know you got less than 10. You just got out of a build fight with us and with a different team. We're taking it. It's ours. So they're going to just probably chop them out. Crash pad in zone. Very smart. And again, like, it's crazy too. I'm not going to sit here and, I mean, obviously I don't know what happens, but fighting Vino and Clicks, the fact that they were able to not only fend off of Baka Pars back here, but also still win the fight against Cooper Kanata after they were just milliseconds before that looking at a different team. You know, they got caught off guard by Cooper and Kanata and win the fight. Just shows how crazy Vino and Clicks are. And I'm going to do a video going deeper into their games in particular, but I really think that like an early prediction here is them doing pretty well at globals. We're going to see, but like I mean, this is insane, right? They just fought off a team while fighting off a different team. And now they're going, now this Baka Pars is taking it from them, and they're still putting up damage. Vino's insane, right? Like he's coming down here hitting Baka or whoever for 50 damage. Of course, they just have lower mats, but if they had 10, 15 more builds, I bet you Baka Pars lose this. But of course, it doesn't pan out that way, and now they just take height. We're just going to 4x this because it is probably the most boring height win of all time. They just saw a team get grief on height, and now they just take it. Spray, spray, spray. Oh, we're out of mats. Drop down. This guy's out of mats. I mean, we can pause and look at everyone's mats. There's only 3 teams left, but we got 7 on a solo, 0 on a solo, and that's it. Because it's 2 solos on 2 different teams. It's kind of weird seeing them not play together, but yeah. Free win. Boom. So all they did this game was they secured the forecast, which is a big detail, right? So they were able to get their loot route, be really efficient, get max mats, and go for forecast. They, you know, not many teams can do that. Not many teams are as fast at getting mats like them. You know, in the position given, right? Like Restored doesn't have as quick as mats, Nitrodome doesn't have quick as mats, and maybe isn't really their main focus. You know, and then this, you know, obviously they have a really quick way to get here, a really uncontested path towards the forecast, and then obviously it spawned as well. So all that went their way. They got forecast. They ended up pulling really good zones, right? So we saw them get multiple zones here, and which allowed them to obviously not have to use a lot of mats through the rotate. Even if they knew where zone was going and it kept pulling down south here, that's still something they have to rotate through. Teams have to find their way. So they were gifted a pretty easy mid game. Like they just sat and surge tag. That was it. They went to zone, right? Then they had a little bit of surge problems here. But again, because they have forecast, they know where it goes. So they bounce to zone. Then they sit in perfect first moving position. Then they, you know, crash pad up. Still have great mats because of how broken forecast is. You're going to be as stacked as possible because you know where to go every single time. Like you don't have to deal with getting a max pull ever. Like if you get a max pull and you have forecast, that's completely your fault. So because of all that, they had great mats in the end game, which, as we've seen in other games, anybody that has over 90 builds in first moving is going to be a contender to win the game as long as they don't throw. And so they go for that. They end up getting second height. They take height after crazy timing against Cooper Kanata versus Vino and Clicks. And that's the dub. They take height, perfect timing, boom, win the game. There you go. That was a breakdown of Baka and Pars game number 2. We learned that forecast is busted. At the end of the day, that's the biggest thing we can take from it. All right, on to the next. All right, going into game number 3. We got Baka Pars, who just won game number 2, and now we're going to watch their game number 3, another 7-kill win. I gotta imagine if they won this game, they probably had a pretty similar outcome in this game to the last game. They probably got forecast, they probably got a good position, and they probably had a good amount of mats, and they probably won from height. All those things, I bet you it's a very repeated game from what we just watched. This one might be a little faster than the last one because there's really not much to look at. Like if they did pull the same thing, we're just going to skip through. I just want to really see if they got forecast, you know, how this game panned out. Let's see here. So they did not get forecast. Okay. All right. So maybe we could take something from this game. Hold on now. So this game, they didn't get forecast, just like the last game where they won. This time they didn't. We already know they're going to do their loot route. We're going to skip through all this. We're just going to really go for the for the meat of this game. We're gonna really get to it. They got their loot route. We know that. They got the forecast. Obviously, they didn't get this game, but they have the metal for it. And it looks like this is their surge position, which is a good idea. I mean, they've got a ton of passage through the green water. You know, teams are always coming through here. They've got a team to trade with over here. They've got teams that can beef with over here on these triple plants. Like you're seeing Zeke and Dash kind of do their thing over here. So it's not a bad spot to be. It is an interesting surge base though. Like to not build the walls, it's only, you know, a couple more builds. I'd feel like you would want to do that, but Baka and Pars are a notoriously weird team. Like they do things differently, and it's good. You want to have something like that to look at to maybe inspire you to change your game in small ways. Let's just see though. They pull zone. Obviously, they land in the zone, like dead center pretty much. Looks like they're really spread for surge, or they were really spread for surge. Let me just go back 2 seconds. Sorry, I just saw. Looks like Pars was pretty far. Could be wrong on this. No, not too far, but yeah, I mean they're jogging tagging for surge, right? This is something that has been a thing for a while now. Like typical OG Fortnite, years and years ago, you would sit in a box, literally not even a surge base. You would just box up right here and just start looking for tags. Like World Cup times, you would just box up, look for tags. No cones, just a stair out at the top of the stair, right? And then we went to the, you know, you edit the window with a cone in your box and drop yourself down and look through a wall. You know, now we've got these big surge bases, and who knows what we'll have in the next year. But in the last probably 2.5, 3 years, it's been strictly just you build a base, you jog and tag, you run around, one person bases, one person runs around, gets refarmed for the guy that bases, and also gets, you know, a ton more visibility because obviously the guy based up only has the 300 meter distance around him, right? He can only see 300 meters max, right? So he can only tag up to that distance. But obviously Pars going out of this, you know, now he has an extra 100 meters or whatever this distance is between them. So jogging tagging is really important, and it allows him to get mats. And I don't know if this is intentional, but he's breaking the plants. I don't know if he even needed that. I actually don't know his HP, but he's breaking the plants, which is kind of weird because you would feel like you would want a team to be on the plants, but maybe there's a reason for everything here. Also, now we're going back into this. Oh, whoopsies. We're seeing a lot of beefing happening at Restored. We're seeing visuals and braids. Who, man, I can't. These guys don't let me ever VOD review visuals and braids. I don't think they'll ever win a game, but they did this to us when we were landing at Restored, and it just doesn't make sense. Like it really doesn't. It really never works out for them. I'm stunned that they're doing that. That's insane to see from... I've not watched these games yet, so this is the first time I'm seeing this, but like, dude, come on. Like, this is... Oh, man. Anyways. Baka Pars. Lock in. That's what we're focusing on. But because visuals and braids are very stupid, it allows Baka Pars to get maybe an extra bit of damage. I didn't see really what they got. But either way, it's clumping players over here, which is what you kind of want, right? Like if zone pulls this direction, which it does, now you got 4 teams coming through here, and they can just sit here and do whatever they want to do with it. But looking at their loot in general, oh wow, they're going for the double surge base. Uh-oh. Looking at their loot in general though, right? Like you've got double 4x DMR is, I mean, this is insane, right? This is what you want. I think he has 4x, yeah. Double 4x DMR in a pretty central position on a hill with skulls. Like if they get chopped out, who cares? They just dash away to zone, go take this hill, go farm their max mats, whatever. Like, and they got the extra heals. We see the big pot here, the big pot there. So they're living. They're living real nicely. Yep, gets chopped out. Oh, no big deal. Let me just go get my max brick down here because there is over 1,000 brick in this area right here. All these black rocks and these little things right here is great mats. So they're still cat mats. Everything they need. And they're just tagging it up. I mean, they don't really have to go anywhere. They have a really high position here. I mean, we're just watching them surge tag. They've got the best spot in the game. Like, that's all it is. They pull zones. They're in a great spot. They're super high up. And they kind of have to force everyone to go around them, which they're doing. See how they rotate this next one, though. There's a lot of options here, right? They could drop down. They could, fizz crash pad off. They could just dash off of this. They could do a lot. And of course, because it pulls back through their thing, I don't know why we can't see the minimap, but we can see the zone here. Because it pulls back through where they land, they're very comfortable here. They know this X floor gives you this, this wall gives you this. So they can calculate what they need to burn. Say, hey, this is, these trees are farmable, but, you got to watch out for this X position here where Cooper is, and maybe you can't because of that, right? So they got all the answers to that, which is a big benefit of anything pulling through your spot, right? Let's just imagine if we were in this position, and obviously I know Restored very well. Like, if Restored was to get, if I was to go back through it, I would know what was farmed, what is left, where's the big pots I threw, what everything gives me, right? To be as efficient as possible. So it should work out pretty well for them. But no forecast and not pulling zones is not a recipe for winning the game the easiest way possible. So they end up going super late, and they just nitro right off, get as many surge tags as possible. They kind of just put themselves right into this bunch here, which is pretty smart. Again, they know this is free. They know that no one's here. They've seen that the space is empty instead. This may actually be their base. I'm not gonna lie. This may be their base. This probably is their base. If there's no edits here and it's only editing down, this is probably Pars' base. That's why I think I maybe have seen them split earlier and they were building this base. Which is really, again, really smart. I mean, taking control like this, building one here, building one there if they wanted to, building one on this, on the tunnel. Like, that's very smart. Let's see this next zone. It pulls far. This is really where your games are made, right? Like this, now you gotta go. It's a far zone. How are they gonna get to it? If I had to guess, they're probably gonna pop a nitro, cut through these builds, run left here, get to this tunnel, see that no one's here, and fizz to zone. Or they could crash pad to it. No, they did exactly that. And they did, okay. Yep, perfect. So now, I mean, they're about to launch themselves all the way to the other side of zone. And boom. Also, I will mention, I'm not going to say that they this is some crazy game-breaking technology, but you guys should all know this, if you don't already, is every tunnel that's around you and any tunnel that you commonly use, like, of course, for me, like I said, I landed Restored. There's really no point in me learning the tunnel that's up here, like that tunnel, right? That's Booga's closest to him. Like, that's not, I'll never really be up there. Like, sure, I know what I need to do for it. Like, I've been through it a handful of times. It's not like in a tournament, it's not my first time hitting it, but there's tunnels around me like this tunnel where I'm very familiar with it. There's, this tunnel, I'm very familiar. All there's three that are over here, like that one, right? You got the one over here. I'm very familiar with these tunnels. So same thing with Baka Pars. They know that if they hit this tunnel on this angle, it's going to take them to this position. It's going to take them this position. They could B-hop off this building to get to, blah, 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 blah. So they know this. They know that they could go right here, and they do. They go, and I'm sure on top of all of that, I've seen them fight a lot in Pleasant and Cash Cups, and I think last FNCS they were doing it. Like, they know how these buildings work. They probably, I mean, I wouldn't say this is the smartest to be up by two things, but they know that they can build a stair here. They know that they can, that's things that I probably wouldn't know myself. I don't think I would have, I don't know if I would have really thought about it too much, but I probably would have just built a box, like not a stair like that, right? But yeah, so POI knowledge and map knowledge is always very important, and it will always help you. And it's never a bad thing to sit there and just run around the map and learn, the HP of this floor. Like, what does this give you? Okay, can you farm this? Like, you need to really, at this point in this chapter, we've been through 3 whole seasons. You guys should all know, what the little extra benefit of this building would be. Okay, it's the metal, right? You can go down here and how much metal does this give you? You don't have to know the exact pinpoint number, but you should have something in mind, right? And so same thing with these buildings, right? Like, you should know where you can build, where you can't build. And on that same note, this is why it's so important to learn new mythic spots like as fast as you can, right? I'll always recommend people to, as soon as the season come out, just land at the mythic spots. Not only is there going to be a lot of people there, which is really good for learning fast, but also you don't want to be, nervous when you're going through an end game and you have to go through redline rig and you've never landed redline rig ever before, and you never, you didn't know what this gave you, or where this went or where that went. You got to know right away. And that's also a big thing when it comes to a brand new map. When there's a brand new map and there's new buildings and everything, it can get very complicated. There's a lot of things to learn and, not a lot of time to do it, but you only have about a month and a half between the first map, chapter 6 and the first chapter 6 FNCS coming out, right? So you got a lot to learn. But at this point, like I said, by season 3, we all know Restored. We should all know it. We should all know Lavish Lair. We should all know Grimgate, Underworld. We should all know this area pretty well. And so back to the point here is just want to let you guys know that Baka Pars know exactly what this tunnel does. They know where it can take them. They know where they want to end up at. They obviously want to end up on the edge of the zone here, being able to hold all these teams coming in, hitting the tunnel. And they do just that. And they pull a great zone. We talked about this a couple times in the other games, but winner's POV is pretty important, right? Like you're going to see them pull a zone. You're going to see them pull the next zone probably. You're going to see them, they're not going to have the most struggle game if they're winning. So they pull zones, great. But just because they pulled this next zone and it got close to them doesn't mean that they're going to win this game guaranteed, right? They got to make a lot of plays throughout the game. So as for the rotate here, Fizz Crash Pad is definitely the play. Oh my. 4x double 4x DMR is insane. Again, like this is something that I really wouldn't know, but it's not like you need to know this. Like I just probably wouldn't know you could build a wall here, and so they get it, they refarm it, and maybe they broke the roof first because if they break this wall, then the roof breaks, and they would, they want the most mats possible. Again, I don't know, but not the biggest detail. Just want to point out that like it is really important to know your POI, know the POIs around you, how they work, what the mats are, blah 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 blah. So they're in a great spot. They're staying elevated. They're crash padding the zone. They have skulls still. They have great surge. They got everything. They got nitro, crash pads, fizz. This is the best loot you could possibly want. If you have this on every single game, you're gonna be in a very good spot. Off of a win as well. They're loving this. This is great. So it pulls across here, right? It goes all the way this way, which is pretty solid. They put themselves in a good position. No matter where the zone was going to go, they were going to be able to get there pretty easily. Now they're scouting it. They're making a bit more space towards the zone because this is a little awkward. They probably didn't need to do this, to be honest. Like, really, this is probably just fine. But they're going to be, extra safe. Make sure they have that little bit of extra space. Can't hurt, but. Yeah. So they go. And they use some of their skulls as well to get into a off of the edge position, right? So now they are in zone, but not on the edge, right? They're not where Bryce X is, they're not where Bugha and Aviv are. Like they're close to them, but they're off the edge, which is important. Now it's, again, it allows them to have a potential easier rotate for the next zone. Next zone pulls, goes to the north here. And again, because the position that they put themselves in, it wasn't on this bunch where Bugha now is not. Bugha is probably dead at this point. I don't see him. He probably died. But we saw Bryce X and Bolts are here, right? This is, obviously this is the edge of zone. They're dealing with Rigby. They're dealing with the zone pushing them in. Right now you got a bit better of a position just because they used one extra skull. So pretty good investment, or maybe it looks like they maybe used 2. Yeah, 2 skulls, but still, that's a good investment for being where they are. They're able to get an easier rotate going forward, and that's what it's all about. Just set yourself up in the best position possible for the next rotate, right? Like we've seen that earlier. They put themselves on the house, right? It was like right here, I think, and then they got to here, right? They built that, and then they got to there or wherever. I forget where they went after that. Maybe that was where they went. And then they came to zone, right? So they kept putting themselves in a high layer, you know, in a kind of forward front position. And that's what you want to do. Oh, here's Bugin and Aviv. They did not die. Here they are. So crash pad, Fizz, Nitro at the same time. So if you land, you can sprint. If you get caught in a situation you don't want to be in, you can get out of there. And now they go up. It looks like it was probably blind from Par's perspective, but that's because he went first, and he's probably not going to have the best perspective. If we go back to Baka's perspective, we can probably see that Baka saw that there was literally nobody on height. And again, with the mats that they have, 85, 85, if we were to stop it right here, right? And anybody in this lobby can go for height, because clearly it was free for them to take it. You know, I'm sure they had to deal with something later on in the game. By the way, quickly want to mention, I didn't really even see this. Maybe, I guess, because it was right here. But they got a burst SMG somehow. Didn't see this, but that's insane. That's an even more reason why they should go for height here. They have an actual spray weapon. If we go around the lobby, we got Enforcer, and DMR, Enforcer, Pistol. You know, we saw DMR and Skittles. Enforcer, Burst. Like, not many burst guns in the game, and those guns are crazy, right? It uses a different type of ammo. It sprays faster. It does more damage. I mean, we got Peterbot and Poyo with... Obviously, their loadouts are different. I mean, come on. But they don't have a lot of mats. So yeah, we're seeing that. That's great that he was able to pick that up. But what I wanted to do here, pause before we played this, was just kind of go through everyone's mats, right? So we got 85 and 85 on Bahars and Baka. Let's look at other great teams. 61, 89, pretty solid. They could go for it. Cooper Kanata, 82 and 80, right? There's a lot of teams that could go for it. 19 and 13, they're kind of out of the mix. Threats, 41 and 35. Again, it is a Grands lobby, so even having 41 builds is pretty good, man. You're happy with it. 39, 38, solid. Npin, 49, 40. Like, you're happy with that. It's not the worst. But I talked about this earlier. You got to make big plays. You want to be winning these tournaments, man. You got to. You got it. It seems psycho, but you got to go for it, man. You got to build up for height. You got to take it. I want to go back to Baka's perspective and see the crash pad. I want to see what he saw, if there was anything crazy. Let's see. My game audio is gone. There we go. Let's see what Baka saw. Probably the same thing that Bar saw. He probably just saw it was literally no one there. It was completely free. So they just take it. Again, they know that, like, yeah, we could be taking it right now, and yeah, we could have played this entire game out for it to just grief us. Like, this could be a full grief. They are well aware that could happen. But like I said, you got to make big plays if you want to win these tournaments, and this is what they do. And they ended up winning this game. But the big thing we can learn from this is going to be how they hold it, right? What happens here? Maybe they do get really lucky. That could happen. So they're below Surge. They're out healing Surge right now. They're struggling to get a couple tags, even though they're on height, which is kind of nuts. I mean, they only need a hit of damage. Now it's gone, so they're good, but they just harp it out. Harp it out. Max spray with his burst. Keep the pressure going as much as you can. So far, nobody's gone for height. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Visuals going up as a... Nope, not a solo duo. Here we go. Let's see. So even still, I mean, this is about the time that Clix and Vino got fought for their height the game before. But, like, also, I mean, we didn't see much of how, you know, what happened before that for Clix and Vino. Maybe they got sprayed out before, but I do want to say that if you do play the game out like this, and it does become this easy, where you are just on height, and you aren't really getting pressured up until this point, we're about to see with visuals going up, I mean, it's still a very good win. Like, it's still very much like, look, they're not getting pressured at all. We didn't see them get looked at once. Not one person looked up on height this entire time up until visuals is about to come up. And their mats are still very, very, very good, right? 41 and 17. Like, that's, we saw Clix and Vino had what, 10 and 10 when they were all the way up on their ulti height. So, like, this is the benefit, and this is the reason of people not looking up at not a single time. So, yeah, let's just see visuals in them. Let's see what happens. So they come out here 24 builds and 36 builds. And they get that refresh. Again, this is what's going to trigger a lot of people coming up for height. And you kind of have to look out for this when you are on height of like, hey, this team just got a refresh. Like, we can see this happening. So they know that something just went down there. They saw that. Or they should have seen that. So now they get it. 76 builds. Like, you know, Braids is spamming. I got max mats. I got max mats. Oh, yeah? Let's go. You got max mats? Let's go for height. Boom. They're going to split mats here. Pop a fizz. One person fizzes. One person makes some space. Put a crouch pad down. Finds an opening where there's literally nothing. And also, they're not looking. Right? They're both focusing on one side, which is not great. And they take the perfect opportunity. This is the exact thing you'd want in Vigil's position. This is also not a bad call. Like, for them to go for this is exactly what you want to see. They're on wood. You just got to refresh. You have, you know, a burst, and you have great guns, right? You have the perfect spray guns for height. And you probably can even hear height has a DMR. Like, you can hear this guy's, you know, tapping his DMR like that, right? So they go for it. Ooh, something happens here. Something ain't right. Taps the fizz. Goes for it, yeah. Yeah, so here's the thing that Visuals and Braids clearly did wrong is you have to jump into the crash pad, like from your fizz. You have to just jump straight into it. And I think that this is, I mean, I personally have never seen Visuals and Braids do this before in any of the scrims that I've been part of. Or I've never seen them go for a play like this. So I would imagine this is probably one of the earlier times that they've done something like this, or maybe it was just a simple, like, in the moment, they just misplayed it and they didn't jump into it, because obviously Braids slings out to the left here, and it's like you're tanking a lot of zone, and now your teammate just dies because you guys were sloppy on the crash pad play. So I think that if we were to put probably any other team, to be honest, because I don't know why they did what they did. Like, I don't know why they didn't just jump into it together. Like, imagine Clicks and Vino, they would have done it perfectly, gone up right, and that kind of goes back to what I mentioned for the map knowledge. But when it comes to any meta, hammer meta, blade meta, this with the fizz, crash pads, nitro, like, you guys gotta know exactly how everything works. I don't care if you never play height in your entire life. Let's just imagine Visuals and Braids never play it ever. Never play this entire season. They should still know exactly what the play is for when you go up. Like, 100% they should know exactly what to do and how to go straight up and not sling yourself like they did here. Because Baka and Pars just got absolutely blessed that he just sold. Like, they got the refresh off of Braids, I guess because they saw him die, and they just took it again. Like, that is, again, winner's perspective is very real. Like, this is why I say it. It's kind of crazy that they just got fought for height, but the team that went to fight them just sold hard. So that's my alarm, sorry. But that's winner's POV, man. So now they probably just spray it out and win the game. Yep. Everyone's either a solo or a duo. We got one duo with 23 builds total and one with 2 builds. And they're dropping down layers, right? Because they know they're not going to win the heal off. If they stretch it to heal off, it's over. They're not winning this game. But they are going slow enough to make sure they secure themselves the top 3, the top 2. Like, they have to. If they drop down 30 seconds before this, they would probably die in the top 10. And that's horrible, right? When you're on high like that. So they end up securing it. Let's just watch this final moment here. Pars jumps in the box and dies. I want to see what happens here. Oh, I missed it again. Wow. Quick death, eh? Let's see. So on this play, I mean, I don't really want to explain this too much, but obviously when you're going to a heal off, there's always going to be one teammate that's at least a little bit higher, or like there's going to be that, maybe if you're the same HP, there's the fragger that's going to go down, right? So here, I think Baka was just higher white HP, so Pars is like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go down and just kind of send it in the box and try to either cancel the heal off or at least see what's going on here. So he does that. He feeds them a kill, which is kind of the goal here, and sees that they're not doing heal off yet. And he goes for it, and he gets a lucky win here. Lucky win for sure. I mean, yeah, Dash turning around and getting finished was probably a call from Seek just because you want the extra point, which makes sense, but it just came out to be Baka on 9 HP winning the game. So pretty nuts finish for sure. But I would say, yeah, this is a big time. I mean, let's see their HP. This is a big time sell from Dash and Seek. I mean, you're a duo with a lot more mats. Yeah, you guys are still really healthy. Like, you're still 90 HP and you get one pump by Baka. That's pretty nuts. Like, I know obviously you didn't have max shield, so that's a crazy choice for him to kill Seek here, right? Imagine if it was the other way around and he killed Dash, then Baka Pars lose. Either way, both teams are happy with the outcome of this game. I'm sure Seek and Dash would have loved to win, but it didn't turn out that way. But yeah, I mean, this is a sell from Seek and Dash for sure. They should have just tarped it out, not had let him jump in the box, play slower, put piece around them, ramp out, cone out, and they would have won the game. But I think that's we're going on a tangent here, but I think that just shows the inexperience from these two players, at least from Dash. Like, you would imagine if this was Clix and Vino on low ground, they probably would have won the game. Like, that's all it is. So that's game number 3, or wait, it's 4? Game 3? Yeah, game 3. So Baka Pars back-to-back wins. That was their last win of day number 1. I think the last win of the tournament. So good breakdown. Things we took from that game would be they know the map. They know where they need to go. They know the exact distance where things take them, what the refarm is, and they're always putting themselves in a forward position. They're elevating themselves, which is technically like a forward position because you're able to, it's an advantageous position compared to anything else, right? That would be lower is the way I look at it, right? So they're always putting themselves in a good position, high layers in front of people, and then that leads them to have a good game. On top of all of that, they got really good early zones. So they were able to sit where they were for a while and get a lot of surge, and they pulled pretty good zones. I mean, if you're gonna pull the first few zones, you're gonna have a pretty easy rest of the game, no matter where it goes. But I mean, that game would have been way different if it pulled any other direction, right? So zones definitely was the reason that they had a lot of success that game. Not only did they have great early zones, but they had great later zones where they didn't really have 5 max pulls in a row. Like, some teams that game dealt with like 5 max pulls in a row, which is nuts. And you can't really do anything if that happens to you. So they got pretty good luck. And then again, we saw Visuals and Braids absolutely throw when they were on high ground. Not surprising. They are a really bad team. Anyways, we're going to wrap it up here. Game number 3, FNCS day 1. We're going to continue going down this list. We're going to hop into game number 4 right now. And yeah, alrighty. Thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget, I host a Tuesday thesis every single Tuesday at 2 p.m. CST. So get your gameplay watched, get your questions answered, and I'll see you there.